I'm Erica Kester, and I was born October 30th, 1987. I had to roll out of bed at like 5 a.m. to get the TV before my parents. We had one TV, we had 4 channels. We had no cable growing up. And your shows were only on for like 2 hours, and then that was it. And then my parents got the TV, and then we went outside. My kids can watch cartoons whenever the fancy strikes them. So a little different. We still like the same things, but the way that we went about them was just very different. The stereotype is, and I think there is a little bit of truth to it, is that millennials kind of suffer from delayed adulthood. That we, yeah, so you would agree, right? We, we're just a baby, like we're in our 20s, 30s, and we think, oh, there's adults here, adults. There are people who have it way more together than we do, and how can I be expected to have my life figured out or do these things when I just graduated or when I'm, fresh out of grad school or whatever. And then you talk to your grandparents who were in the same, who were in their 20s, and they are like, I had 3 kids and a mortgage by the time I was your age, and I don't see what the big deal is. You just grow up. And I feel like my generation very much feels the maybe it was the pressure of it, of maybe needing to have our lives mapped out and having a clear path, and instead of leaning into it, we shied away from that responsibility. We said, oh, we can't be expected to have that responsibility, and then they just didn't. The approach to faith, it was a lot more formal maybe in my parents' generation. I remember going to church with my parents, and I was very blessed to have 2 God-fearing Christian parents who we went to church every Sunday. It was very much not a choice, right? It was like you got up every Sunday, you went to church. And my dad wore a suit and tie, like to church every Sunday. He was like an usher or like a deacon or something. And it felt very formal. And when I got older, I realized, okay, your relationship with Jesus doesn't have to be formal. And even my parents relaxed a lot. Like, it's not, like over the years, I feel like the approach to church in general and just to faith is very personal now. And it doesn't feel as much focused on the outward, how you worship. I was in probably my late 20s, early 30s. That was kind of the hardest point in my life. I walked through something very difficult personally. I had to go through a very kind of traumatic, very sad divorce. And it was during that time that I leaned really heavily on my faith. Not that my faith was tested in that moment at all. I thankfully, throughout that whole process, I never lost hope. I always had the peace and the hope of Jesus, but I never had to lean as hard on Jesus as I had during that time. I think that's the time of my life where I learned what fervent prayer was, like where I learned where calling out to Jesus wasn't just something that like, oh yeah, I said it in like Christianese. It was something that I found myself on my knees, actually crying to Jesus. So as I was walking through that really difficult point in my life, I was here at Victory. I happened to be at Victory. I had started my older daughter, Sadie, had been a kindergartner at the time, and it was like the first or second week of school. I didn't know anybody at Victory, and Pastor Tim saw me, and I didn't even know I didn't know he was a pastor. I just thought he was just some random dude just walking around. And he goes, "Hey, you know, my wife has a prayer group like meeting right now in that room if you want to stop in." And I thought, okay, and I did, and I'm so very thankful that I did, because it's exactly the church community that I had been looking for. People who love Jesus and who love people, who put that commandment of love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind, and then go love others. That's the community I was looking for, and that's the one I found.